and welcome back to UE5 BP Guru. So today we're going to be continuing on with our battling encounters. Now, I'm very privileged to be able to speak to this guy in the Discord. We've got someone new called Spoonfed, and if you've ever played the VR Pokémon game, he's the guy who basically made that. And crazy, he's basically giving me a lot of insight on where we should kind of go with all this. Now, I've actually made it to the point now where I can do some tackling. This was also a big help to Mr. Meerkat, who sat in a stream with me yesterday and just kind of had a look at some code because I couldn't fix the bloody issue with the battling, but it's working now, so we can do damage. Now the enemy doesn't do damage at the minute, but it will do. It basically does exactly what the player is doing, but it's doing it backwards through a random attack it picks. But we can now fight to the point where we actually kill our enemy, but obviously I haven't done any of that yet. Small steps, daily small steps is what I'm aiming for. Let's exit out of that. Now, the next thing we want to do is so we've got basically a move set, but now we need to kind of decide on how we get that move set onto the screen so that we can select. Now, mine's kind of cool. I quite like the setup of mine. If I show you one more time, when I click attack, what happens is it builds from the bottom up through the integer. I did this actually by random. I wasn't necessarily kind of going for this, but it will only build the buttons if there is a move, and it builds them from the bottom up. So tackle is 0, and then tail whip is 0 and tackle is 1, because they go, whatever you put in first kind of comes out last. Yeah, whatever you put in first. If tackle goes in, it then gets pushed. It would technically sit at 0, but when you push in tail whip, that goes to 1. So I was able to use that as a way to get tackle in the top, and it builds upwards. So yeah, kind of weird how I ended up with that, but I actually I think it's quite effective. But I'll show you what I did in the battle widget. And also the reason why it does that is because when I'm putting my moves in, it's going down the list of available moves, and it looks for the first one that's available. So in this instance, it's tackle's the first thing in the list. So it takes tackle and puts that in first, and then it puts tail whip in. So that's how I kind of got that. So if you followed my tutorials, basically it should already be set up like that. Then if I stop playing, sorry, I should do that. So that's how this kind of comes to be in existence. So let's have a look at the code I did to get that. Obviously, this is all kind of, I'll show you all this as well, but it's just it's kind of normal setting stuff. So to begin with, on the run, I think I've showed you the run before. So create the run. It's basically just setting the game mode back to game only. It's showing the controller, showing the mouse cursor as false. Removes all the widgets, and then it opens up our Core and Wallington persistent level. When we are constructing our battle widget, we delay by a second just to give a few other things a chance to load up. The reason being is I'm loading mine through a battle proxy now, which I will go through in the next episode probably. But this is from Spoonfed. He's the one that told me to use a battle proxy because I do want to add some multiplayer in at some point. So using that, it makes it basically a lot easier to run multiplayer. But I'm just trying to get encounters set up first. So we've got our player character. We casted that. We set that as a third-person character, and we do a sequence. And from that sequence, we are basically loading up the party information and the current Ringmon information. So get a reference to your third-person character, pull off and get your Ringmon party. Now at this point, I'm only setting slot 1, but I will be changing this to a system I've set up in the encounter, which it collects the information of the Ringmon that's actually first in your party that's alive, because you always send out the first one, right? So at the moment we know we only have one Ringmon, so we're just setting slot 1. It's a little bit easier, but we will eventually set this up to that new function I have created in my battle proxy. We then break that information, we get the final stats and the creature info. We break those, and we're just setting this information. So we're setting the party health by dividing our HP by our HP max. We then set the party name. That's just a get name to text function. Party XP, setting that percentage again. That's just your current XP divided by your max XP. And then we are just getting the party's level. Again, it's just getting the current level. We put that into an append, so it's got the LV dot, and then it goes into there. And it's the same for the encountered creature, so we always set our creature as the current Ringmon, which is our Ringmon in focus, which is the encounter Ringmon. And we just, again, break exactly the same information. We get the Ringmon build struct, we get the basic info, and the final stat. This Ringmon build is just a struct which is exactly the same as this. It just doesn't have slot set. And that is what we're using for our encounters. Then we just do enemy health, enemy name, enemy level, which is all these things here. I think I have shown you this in the last episode, but it's good to go over just in case you're looking at this from a different point. Then we have our buttons. So let's go down and see what happens when we click our inventory button, which I think I have got set up. It will basically set the inventory as active. No, it checks to see if the inventory is already active. If it is, it will set it to false and just get rid of it. Get rid of those 4 options that appear. If it's false, it's not active, it will make sure active attack is definitely set to false, and then it will set this one to active, and again it just gets the relevant buttons and text and just gets rid of all of it. Sets all to visible/hidden, depending on what you want to appear. So for us, this is our inventory. It gets all the inventory buttons and text and sets that to visible, and gets rid of all the attack buttons. Eventually this will have to expand to the other buttons, or I could just stick them all in here and have like a million buttons, whatever, doesn't really matter. Then we're setting our attack buttons. So on clicked, this is the bit more complex because it's setting a lot more bits and bobs, but on attack button clicked, it checks to see if it's active. If it is active, it will just hide them and set active to false. If it is false, it will make sure inventory is turned off, set the attack to active, and then we cast our third person character to get a bunch of information. Again, we're just getting that slot 1 for now. Eventually I will stick in a function that just finds the first Ringmon in slot that has health, and then we're just setting this visibility to hidden for our inventory, just in case it's actually open. Again, same thing that's happening here with the attack buttons. It's just setting it to hidden just in case it's open. Then what we're doing is we are getting this move slot information. So we're breaking the Ringmon party, getting slot 1, getting creature info, and then getting the move slot. And then we're putting that into for each loop. So it's going to do this 4 times for each move slot, because we only have 4. It's then doing this via sequence, because with a branch you could easily break. So sequence is better because it will run each one individually. And then we put in a branch for each one, and we check to see if our index is 0, 1, 2, or 3, because that's what we have when we set up our moves for our starters and our encounters. It is setting those move slots to between 0 and 3. So what happens now is the move slot here, which we've pulled off from our input of the move slot. So the move slot goes into the break, the for each loop, sorry, and then the move slot, we break that to get the move slot struct. And what we're doing is then we're pulling off from the index array, because each one of these will be given that 0 to 3 index. And again, as I mentioned before, it will push tackle down to 4. So if we want tackle to be at the top, we need to make sure we're doing this almost kind of slightly backwards in a way. So you'll see that 0 is equal to move slot 4. And then 3 is equal to move slot 1. That's because, again, 1 is at the top on mine. I could rename this so that this is 1 and that is 4. But, you know, it is what it is. So we got move slot button 1, which will be always equal to integer number 3. And this one is move slot 4 and will always be equal to integer 0 for me. That's just how I've got it set up. And then what this does is it goes, okay, is there a move in move slot 0? Well, it always will have 1 in 0. So it will always come back as true. And it'll run that and it'll say, okay, let's get, we need to set a few things here. So it'll say, okay, we need to set the move slot 4 PP. So it does that. It sets that in there. Now, the way I've done this is it will set this as an append, and then append goes to a string, to text string, sorry, and then sets the text that way. The reason for the append is that way I can always have it say PP, then whatever the move PP is, then a divide symbol, and then it will always have the move max PP. So it's always PP and then max PP, and then later on when we start changing this move PP, it will update the append accordingly and just do that B section. That's what I've done for the PP anyway. I think it's quite effective, to be honest, but you know, you might want something different. Then it's going to set the move slot name, or the text for the name, and that is again just easily just get the move name and you plug that into here. And then we're setting the visibility of the button to visible, so it sets the name and the PP and then it makes the button visible, and it's doing that, and then it literally goes, okay, we've done that one, let's check to see if they have a move for move slot 3, and then we check 1, so we're checking to see if there is 1 in 1. So it'll go, okay, so we've got 0, have we got 1? Yes, we've got 1, okay, great, and then we'll check to see in there. Now, there should never be anything in 3 unless you have 4 moves. So this should always come back false, and so should 2 when you first get your start creature, because 2 and 3 won't have a move unless you want it to have a move. It won't have a move, so it'll always come back false, and it just won't set anything. It'll just stay hidden from view, and that's what I'm doing to get that. And I'll show you again. So literally, all it's doing is you should be able to attack a badger. So when we click attack, so if I click inventory, it closes all that and then just opens these up. Obviously party doesn't do anything at the moment, but if I click attack, it gets rid of all of that in the inventory and now sets it up so you've got tackle and tail whip. And again, if I click on tackle, it works, and it'll go back, and then I can click another move and go tail whip. That's obviously stat, so it won't have a major effect on that at the moment, and then I can go back and tackle again, and do it that way as well. And then I can always, in the middle of the fight, get a normal cartridge or whatever. So it works, and then I can always run. So that's working. So yeah, so if you have any questions on this, please don't feel free to ask me. Yeah, it should be easy enough to follow along with. As I say, it's only setting some basic information. In the next episode, we're going to be looking at clicking those buttons. These are the 4 attack buttons that we're going to have. Most of this should be pretty straightforward for the button. Now, I did have some issues, but I managed to fix them with the attacking. So these buttons, I do know these buttons work now as they are through vigorous testing, thanks to Mr. Meerkat. God damn it. I want to call him Mr. Meeseeks from Rick and Morty. Yeah, so these do work very nicely, and of course some of these aren't set up yet. This button 2 press and button 3 press aren't set up because I'm only using button 4 and 3 at this point in time, but I will have to set those up ASAP. So yeah, I will go through this in the next episode, of course, but we're getting there. We're getting there. I'm still tanking away. I'm trying to get ahead of the tutorials a bit so that I can make sure everything is definitely working before I show you guys, because I don't really want to repeat of the encounter stuff. So please bear with me. It's gonna work at the end. I promise. We're gonna get there. We're gonna get there, and it's gonna work definitely. But in the meantime, thank you so much for checking out this video. Don't forget to like, leave a comment if you need any help with anything, or if you have any tutorial suggestions, or if you just want to say hey, I don't mind. Just put hey in the comments. Join the Discord. There's plenty of people in there now that like doing the same thing. So if you need any help, they'd be more than happy to probably lend you a hand. And of course, as always, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It's free to do, and you can always change your mind down the line. And thank you so much, guys. I'll see you next time. Take care. Bye.